Good evening. So I quickly jumped. I am good. Lot of before 1 minute also there was some, yeah, you have to play around with the technologies and issues. But yeah, good. So did you finish your last task? Whatever I have given? Nice. Nice. So can you give me a minute? Let me close all my Windows tabs. You'll go crazy if you see it. And then I'll share my screen. Okay, I'm ready now. Thanks for waiting. Nice. What the- Okay, this and this. Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen? Nice. Okay. So can you please remind? So what was the last things that what we have discussed? Aha. Okay. Okay. Have you done this cross task and all? Wow. Okay. Okay. So excellent. So now then let's go to load balancer concepts. What is that? Load balancer concepts. Okay, so you know very well about this load balancer. So many times, basically, what we did, we went and then we learned about this load balancer, right? So what is a load balancer, guys? Which distribute the traffic across multiple EC2 instances across availability zones, right? And then what we do here is now, here we'll try to launch an EC2 instances, let's say 2 EC2 instances, right? So when do you need this load balancer? So that meaning you need to have some application on this EC2 instance, right? Do you agree? We should have some applications inside this EC2 instance, right? And what we're gonna do is, yes, we're gonna do a small application or small site called index.html. We'll try to put index.html on this 2 EC2 instance. So first what we do is we'll go and launch one EC2 instance, and then we have this index.html, and then we'll go and launch another EC2 instance. We'll have this website called application called index.html. After that, we'll go and create an create a load balancer, right? And do you remember the target groups that we have discussed? right? So we'll create a target group, and then we'll go and try to attach this EC2 instance to the load balancer. You got this right? So number one is, but this time what we're going to do is, guys, we are not putting this application manually. We'll be using our user data. What is that, guys? What is user data? Guys, what is user data? Do you remember what is user data? Bootstrap scripting. Do you remember Bootstrap scripting, right? So yeah, Bootstrap scripting. So what we do is that script. So we need to talk about the script, a small script. That's, don't worry about that at all. So I have a very small script that we go and, yeah, this guy. So this guy. Let's talk about this script first. So guys, number one, what we're gonna do is we will launch EC2 instance, launch EC2 instance with the user data, launch the EC2 instance with the user data, right? Once you launch that, access the application using EC2 public IP, and then you will launch same another EC2 instance, one more set, and then next what we do is create load balancer. After that, create target group, right? And once this load balancer is created, access ELB with the DNS name. Do you understand the steps now, guys? So why we are accessing this? Why we are accessing this index.html from the EC2? Because we just wanted to cross-check whether the application is properly installed or not. Guys, can you tell me if this application is not working on the EC2, will the load balancer work? Will the load balancer work? You there? Hello? Why you guys are slow today? Okay, no. So yeah, please be interactive. So now, guys, so what we're going to do is first we will launch an EC2 instance using user data. User data meaning this script, right? User data meaning this script here. And then once this user data, this script is executed, our index.html will be ready on this. So we'll try to access the index.html using this EC2 instance public IP. Just wanted to check if this works or not. And the same thing we do it here. And then once these two are working, we'll go and create an ELB, Elastic Load Balancer, and try to attach this EC2 instance to this. And then we'll try to access load balancer. Okay, let us talk more on this script. Okay. So okay. So guys, so this is called basically shell script. What is this called? Shell script. The first one is called it as shebang. What is this called? Shebang. Shebang. So the first line is called shebang. The first line is called shebang. So before talking about this shebang, guys, so do you know this how this Linux works? Right? Linux is all about directories. So this, guys, can you tell me in Linux, everything will start with what? Root. Are you going with the for the Linux classes, guys? No. Right. So in Linux, everything is directories basically, right? And everything will start with a root. Inside this root, you have multiple basically directories or folders. Everything is directory, guys. Everything is a files and directories over here. you will have so many directories inside the root. So the file system of the Linux will start with slash, that meaning root. So you might have a something called slash etc, slash emp, slash home, slash var, slash bin, whatnot. There are so many. Everything is based on the file. Everything is based on the directories here, right? Whenever someone logged in, so guys, how do we have the user profiles in our? Whenever you log in with your on your laptop, basically you will have your profile, right, created. The same way, whenever you log into the Linux machine, the profiles, your own home directory will be created under home. Let's say, for example, Venkat has logged in. So how it will be? Slash home slash Venkat. If Tom has logged in, slash home slash Tom. Jerry has logged in, slash home slash Jerry. Everything for every user this he is logging in, he will have his own home directories. So basically everything is like this. So to show you basically how the file system work is, the architecture of your is this. Okay. Okay. I don't know how many circuits. So let's go with here you have a hardware. So on top of it, you have what? Kernel, right? So this is kernel, and on top of it, you have what? On top of it, kernel, what you have? Shell. On top of the shell, you have your applications, right? So can you tell me a few commands that we uses in Linux? ls, cd, pwd, mkdir, cat, vi, cd, cd is already used, cp, touch, yum, echo, move, whatnot, sudo, right? Rm. There are so many. Because these are all the commands that you will be executing on the application level here. Okay, now, so this will be like this. A small intro on Linux from my side. So here we have an application. So whatever you commands that you execute, this will go and first hit the shell. This go and first hits the shell. Guys, shell is basically what it does is it takes the command whatever you have provided and it will give it to the kernel. And kernel, what it does, kernel will get some, kernel is nothing but your operating system. What is kernel? The core component of your operating system is called kernel. Operating system meaning the code is basically how your operating system will work. Inside this OS, you have a code. That main code is called here kernel. So kernel will get some resources from your hardware, how much ever it is, and then whatever the command that is getting to you're asking will be executed and will be given here, and the shell will be given to you back here on your terminal. Guys, your app here meaning your CMD, that means your terminal. CMD. Guys, your terminal, right? Linux is the blackboard, na? You have your terminal there. So can you tell me, guys, shell is the guy who will be taking the commands and giving to the kernel. So shell is an intermediate between your kernel and then application. And what is kernel? Kernel is a mediator between shell and hardware. Right? Okay. Now, can you tell me here, without shell, can you execute your commands? Definitely no. So for to execute any command, definitely we need to have a what? Shell. Definitely we need to have a shell. So shells are basically, we have different types of shells. Have you heard about shells called uh, yeah, we call it as /bin/sh /bin/ksh kshell /bin/c shell, right? /bin/bash shell, right? You have so many shells available. Yeah, Z shell, you have it. So many shells available, guys. So these are all old shells. Whatever that, K shell, C shell, K shell, everything, these are all old, guys. So basically, one which is called, this is basically the name of this is called, we no need to learn all these things, but yeah, the first one is called Bourne shell, right? And we have K shell, corn shell, etc., etc. And latest shell is this guy. This is called born again shell. If you ask me differences between shell, K shell, C shell, etc., etc., nothing. So these are all the improvements. These are all, guys. These are all the improvements basically. So in SH shell, you don't have few features. In K shell, you have some features. In C shell, you have more features. Basically, in Bash shell, you have all the features, basically whatever usually nowadays needed. So most common shell which is used is what shell? Bash shell. What is that, guys? Bash shell. So if you want to write a script, definitely we need to have this shell. Na? We need to inform the shell, right? Now come to here, this scripting, and this is what here interpreter where bin bash. This is called shebang. So without this line, first line, you cannot execute any commands in your Linux. This is called shebang. Guys, do you understand the shell concept here? The first line, bin bash. On which shell you want to execute the your script is called this shebang. Nice. Okay. It will the path of the script, right? Yeah. Yeah. It is a path of your shell, not script. It will, yeah. So now next command is yum. Guys, what is this yum? So yum is basically, do you know that you're slowly taking me into the Linux concepts, huh? So do you know this? We have something called two base. Already I told you, like RPM based and Ubuntu based Debian based, right? So in RPM, we have something called Red Hat, CentOS, etc., etc. And here we have some in Debian, we have Ubuntu, SUSE, right, etc., etc. You have so many. But in this RPM based, you have, guys, everything is Linux only here. Linux is like ice cream. You have different types of flavors, na? Butterscotch, vanilla, strawberry, whatever it is. So in Linux, you have Red Hat, CentOS, Ubuntu, SUSE, right? What, so many are there. These are all Linux only, but these are all Linux only. Yeah, but this is like, the flavors are different. Basically, the syntax is different between these operating systems. So here in Red Hat, if you want to install any package, yeah, if you want to install any package, so you use yum, update manager, yum. And here in Debian, if you want to install, you use apt-get. What is that? Apt-get. So here, as we are using mostly Red Hat machines, so if you want to install any package, what is the command that you use? Yum. Got that? Now, so you have yum here, yum install. Guys, what is this HTTPD? Simply, it is not, it is Apache. So here we call it as HTTPD. In Ubuntu, we call it as Apache 2. Apache or Apache 2 and all. Apache 2, Apache 2, whatever versions here. Got this? So here we are trying to install a small, basically a web server called Apache. So in RPM based in Red Hat, what is Apache called? HTTPD. And if you are installing something, here, whenever you are installing anywhere, it will give an interactive, right? Like, hey, you want to install? Yes. Hey, it is consuming this much size. Yes or no? Yes. So guys, in scripting, you always use -y. So -y meaning yes for everything. Yes for everything. Got this? Guys, everyone got the second line? This line? So this is installing HTTPD. So now we have installed HTTPD. You need to go and start the service. No? So what is the command to go and start the service? So service, which service is that? And then start. You can stop, you can restart, you can start. This will change. Service, HTTPD, stop, start, restart, your wish. Now here, we just installed and we are starting it. Hmm? And now, next we have something called check config HTTPD on. Guys, what is that? Check config HTTPD on. Check config meaning, guys, let's say you have an EC2 instance and you have HTTPD running on this server, on this instance. And all of a sudden, this server stopped and then someone has started it. Whenever it started it, automatically our application should run. Na? Yes or no? Automatically our application should run after restarting your machine. Yes. That meaning your HTTPD service should be up and running. So if you don't use this HTTP check config HTTP on, by default, if you stop and start an EC2 instance, this HTTP service will be in stop state. You have to go manually log into it, and then you need to go and start it manually. If you don't want like that, if somehow someone started and stopped the EC2 instance or started and stopped someone, it should come up automatically, right? So if you use this check config HTTPD on, whenever you stop and start the EC2 instance, whenever it is coming up, this service will be switched on automatically at the boot time itself. You have startup services na, in your whenever you log into your EC2, whenever you log into your laptop, automatically few applications will come up, right? The same way here. This application will up and running after you stop and start the EC2 instance. Make sense? These 3 lines, everyone? And then this HTTPD should consider your files as a website or an application, right? So there is a separate path called var www/html, right? So if you put anything here under HTML, HTTPD service will consider as a website or an application. You cannot put here and there. Okay. So this is the default path. So we are aiming. So we are, what is MKDIR meaning? Make directory. That meaning you are creating a directory here. Okay, you created a directory. This will be there already automatically. You no need to even put this line, because whenever you install HTTPD, this structure, this directory structure will be automatically created. Okay. And then we have echo, guys. Now in this www/html, we should have our index.html, right? This should get created automatically. So I am pushing some line called, hey, this is my first website on EC2. This is the first website on EC2. Whatever the content you're putting in a single quote here, if you use this greater than symbol, guys, greater than symbol is basically greater than is for, like, you can forward. It can forward, or greater than symbol are also used to create. If you use greater than symbol and then give the to the file called index.html, this index.html will be created automatically because you have greater than symbol here. And this will get created automatically, and then all this content will be redirected into this index.html, forwarded or redirected. whatever the content you are putting it here, everything will be forwarded or redirect to index.html. And if you use greater than symbol, this index.html will also get created. Guys, but if you use double greater than, what will happen? It is for append. It doesn't create any file, but whatever the file you have it and whatever the data you put it, this will go in line by line, it will go and keep on adding it. It will append it. So keep this in mind. This is called redirections here. So you have greater than symbol. Guys, is this clear, the script that we'll be using it here? And a small intro on this Linux. Everyone? So now, should we use this script and then launch the EC2 instance? Should we use this script and launch the EC2 instance? Yes. So here, guys, here in this script, I'll put a small modification that, guys, we should know, na? See, basically, the application should be here and here should be different or same. It should be same, na, guys. But for now, for your sake, I just wanted to show you load balancer can send the traffic to multiple EC2 instance. So I'll put it as, for this, I'll say it as, this is my first website on server 1. I'll say it is server 1. And here in user data, I'll put it as server 2. And then whenever we try to access from the load balancer, automatically one request will go to server 1, one request will go to server 2. I just wanted to show how it is load balancing it. But in real time, it should be same. But here, for your, just for fun, I'm just putting server 1 and server 2. Is that okay? Do you understood that logic? Nice. Let's go now and quickly launch an EC2 instance. Launch EC2 instance. So I'll go with our Red Hat T2 Micro. Guys, this one I'll put it in 1A. I'll enable it. And then next. I'll call it as server 1. Next. Security group default, review it, launch. And then 6:30 PM batch. No one stopped me, huh? Guys, we thought to give user data, na? We were thinking that, sir. Where is the guy where you put the user data here? Here, right? So let's take that user data. So guys, I'm putting that user data on the chat also, so you can take it. So I'm putting this here, guys. Is this clear? Where did I put in the user data section, guys? And then here I call it as, this is my first website on, I call it as server 1. Clear? And then I click on next, and then launch. Should we go and launch in server 2 also? Should we go and launch server 2 also, guys? Let's go and launch. This time I'll put it to 1B, enable it, and then here, and should I call it as server 2 here now? Next, and I call it as name and then server 2. Next, default, next, launch. So 2 EC2 instances are getting launched. So guys, when it is cooking now, that means when it is coming up, right? So the user data will also be executed in the boot time. So we should have automatically our index.html application ready, right? on the machine by the time it comes up? Yes. Okay, let's so guys, and also, do you remember that in order to have our website to access our website on security groups, what is the protocol we should enable? HTTP. So meanwhile, I'll go to the security groups, default, edit, and then I'll go and add HTTP. Otherwise, my website will not work. My app. So let it come. Okay, so both are ready now. Guys, should we go and check whether our websites has launched properly or not? How to do that? So select the server one and take your public IP and try to put it out there. Boom. Do you see that? Our website is ready. And then let's go and check it server 2 and put that there. Boom. And then this is also ready. So this is my first website on server 1 and server 2. So my EC2 instance is holding the applications nicely now. So guys, will you give the IP addresses to the customers to access your applications? This IP address? No. What should we create now? Load balancer, ELB. So on the left side, do you see that here we have load balancer? Let's go ahead and then create a load balancer. Where is you see? Create load balancer. Create load balancer. Do you remember there are 3 types of load balancers? What are those? ALB, NLB, CLB. Which is the load balancer we should use it here? ALB. Why and how and all we have remember we have discussed quite a lot on this, right? So this is a previous generation which supports HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and network load balancer on TCP. So application load balancer on HTTP and HTTPS. So let's go and click on create application load balancer. So now name Kumari. No, what should we give? Name. Just call it as my ELB, right? And then your ELB should be internet facing or internal facing. Hmm? Do you have a doubt on that? So you have a load balancer and you have EC2 instances here, right? So your load balancer should be what? Internet facing here. There would be some load balancer where you should go and create it here also. And these load balancer should be internal facing, right? So those are the load balancer which you want to connect from outside from internet. Then you have to use that. So here internet facing, nice. IP is IPv4 or IPv6. It should be IPv4 only. Okay, guys. Now you tell me here, and this load balancer should listen on what protocol? The request should come on the load balancer using what protocol? You can go with HTTP or you can go with HTTPS. But do you remember that in HTTPS meaning we need to have certificates, right? We don't have certificates for that. Do you remember in which service in AWS supports certificates? certificate manager. What is that? Certificate manager. So usually you go to the GoDaddy and you'll get it, right? So here you don't need to GoDaddy or Kamami, you don't need to go anywhere. So here we have something called certificate manager. See, you can have your own certificates in AWS itself, guys. You can create your own certificates, but for this you need to have a domain, because all your certificates here, let's say for example, this is a certificate here. See, certificate. This is valid for only 1 year. So basically, we see that this is AWS certificate issued by Amazon. So this Amazon also using this certificate manager itself. So if you have certificate coming from GoDaddy, you will get see it from GoDaddy. You see it GoDaddy, na? Or any certificate, any link you go it, and you should get it. See, issued by GoDaddy.com. So basically, you no need to go and purchase anywhere in GoDaddy or wherever it is. Here in AWS, we have a native service called Certificate Manager. You need to go and you can go and purchase here and get the SSL certificates. That meaning your HTTPS certificates. But here for now, let's go for HTTP. And if at all you have in your company, if you have your HTTPS certificate, guys, it is always a secure or best practice is to go with HTTPS on your load balancer on your real time. But for now, let's go for HTTP. And then availability zones. So guys, availability zones here, your EC2 instances in which availability zone? Now you tell me load balancer should have at least how many availability zones to transfer, to distribute the traffic? 2, na? And that too also our load balancer, our EC2 instances are in 1A, or EC2 instance are in also in 1B. But if your EC2 instance also in 1C, say like this. But I have it only on 1A and 1C, na? 1A and 1B, na? Right? Minimum we should have 2. Do you remember the global accelerator concept? Guys, do you remember global accelerator? Did we discuss about global accelerator? Okay. So global accelerator, basically, it's a new add-on service which is added to the load balancer. So this would be like this. Basically, let's say you have the AWS, and then you have your load balancer over here, and then EC2 instances here. Okay. So this is in Mumbai. And guys, you are now sitting over here in US. In US. In client location. You are in US in client location. Guys, every client will have your own firewall, na? Yes or no? Every customer, every company will have its own firewall. Okay, now. So from here, if you are accessing the website, what is our website? Let's say boom.com, right? Boom.com, which is this ELB, right? Okay. Now, if you're accessing from US, what is the basically, guys? If you're accessing from from US, you'll have so many hops, na? Yes or no? Do you have so many hops? Will it go directly this to AWS? Definitely no. You will have so many hops. So from your laptop, you will go to your local internet provider. From there, it will go to your somewhere. From there, it will go to somewhere. And out of from US to Mumbai, it has to cross through multiple networks. So by the way, if you want to connect from US to Mumbai, do you have a high latency or low latency? High latency or low latency? High latency. And also, your boom.com is nothing but your ELB DNS only, na? We are just giving alias name for your DNS name. DNS. Do you agree this boom.com is nothing but your ELB? Everyone? Yes, right? Okay. Now, did we learn that in load balancer has any, okay, now this US guy, this customer, which you are sitting over here, is telling you an AWS admin. You are an AWS admin or an architect. And customer is in US and he's connecting from his company. Now, the thing is here, guys, you know very well that customer is asking you, hey, can you give me the IP address of boom.com? Because I need to add those IP addresses here in my firewall. Because they need to add, nah, otherwise the IP has to be added on the firewall. Otherwise, can he access from his company? No. IP has to add it to his firewall. But this customer is asking, hey, admin, give me the IP address of boom.com. Guys, can you tell me, is it possible to get the IP address of boom.com? First of all, is it possible? Do we have, guys, do we have, we know that we need to use only DNS name, but load balancer has IP addresses or not? Does the load balancer has IP address? Na? Yeah. Yes. So if the customer is asking for the IP address, you will give the load balancer IP address. Didn't we learn that we should not give the IP address of the load balancer because load balancer IPs are static or dynamic? Hmm? IPs are dynamic, right? IPs are dynamic because this is dynamic. So if you give the IP address of this load balancer here, maybe for 1 day or 2 days it'll work. After that, this IP address will change in the backend on the AWS, and then this application will not from your customer location. So you cannot give the IP address, and customer cannot, and you will be saying that to customer, hey, use my DNS name. You are saying use DNS name, but the firewall will not accept a DNS name. Firewall will not accept DNS name. You have to give IP address. Guys, if you want to have a static IP address of your load balancer, what is the risk? What is the disadvantage? Can you have the static IPs of your load balancer? We need to contact AWS to get the static IPs. But if you get the static IPs, what will happen? Yeah, Harshavardhan, nice, Smita, right. Performance issues. What to do in this case of situation? And this is also high latency. Guys, if you want to reduce the high latency, what is the concept that we use from different regions? Excellent. Edge locations, we'll use it, right? Edge location. You can use edge locations, but these IP concepts will resolve. No. So for this, AWS has implemented a concept called global accelerator. What is that? Global accelerator. Global accelerator. So global accelerators gives two static IPs. Two static IPs. So you can use these two static IP address, global accelerator static IP address to your firewall, and then this global this global accelerator will directly connect to your load balancer. And you know what? Here, high latency meaning, guys, this is your public internet or not? And this guy here is AWS internal network. Of course, if you want to have a CloudWatch or edge location, that also can be done. If you want even more super speed, right? If you want even more have a super speed, you can have a CDN also here, your edge location. So whoever is typing boom.com, first it will go and hit the CDN, and from there it will go to the global accelerator, and from here it will be like Japan bullet train from here to your load balancer. Sup. And it, because it is AWS internal network, and you will have a super high performance. These global accelerators are like, it supports these two static IPs. So for the customers where they need to have an IP address, and of course it will increase the performance also. Global accelerator increase, reduce latency. GA reduces the latency across the globe. Is this clear, guys? We had a very nice session on CDN. Guys, do you remember CDN? Content Delivery Network, edge location. CDN is nothing but your edge location for website caching. Okay. So guys, if you have this kind of requirement, go and enable it. But don't do that, because it will, do you see the bulguling? So everything is automatic here. Only thing what you need, create and give the name. That's all you need to do. That's all. And rest, everything will take care by AWS. Guys, do you understand step 1 here? Everyone, configure load balancer. Give the name, internet facing, HTTP, select this two. That's all. Everyone, is this clear? Step 1. And now click on next. And it gives a Bluetooth here saying that, hey, you're stupid, you're not using HTTPS. I'll say, it's okay, Ray. Click on next. Will you use new secret group or existing secret group? Yes. Click on next. So guys, till now here we have created a load balancer, and now the next topic is to create a target group. Yes or no? Just a second, guys. Let me fire this guy. Yeah. Nice. Okay. So guys, now it's now time to create a target group. Do you remember target group on what we have discussed? So this application load balancer has a nice feature called target group, right? It can go to multiple target groups. Do you remember that concept? Right? If not, just see the snapshot, you'll understand. So now I'll create a target group called web target group. You can give any name. Guys, what does the target group contains? What it has in target groups? What does the target groups contain inside it? Instances, right? EC2 instances, right? So the target types are, let's go and select instances here, right? And then protocol, you know very well, 80, port number 80. And guys, this is important. Do you remember that health checks that this load balancer will do the health checks, right? Okay. Load balancer will do the health checks for what? For EC2 instance or for application? For application, right? Here, what is our application at the moment in our EC2 instance? Index.html, right? So you guys keep this in mind. You should give here slash. So many people will do the mistakes here, guys. So don't remove the slash. It should be slash index.html. So basically, load balancer, no need to be index.html all the time, guys. So load balancer will keep on checking, hey, index.html, are you there or not? There or not? There or not? There or not? You can give another link also. If this index.html is used by the customers, and this will be double used by the load balancer for this checking purpose. So simply you can create a default page or some small page and give it to the health checks purpose, not your actual application. Yeah, got this, guys? It should be /index.html. Is this clear? You're creating a target group, just give the name and you're putting the instances here, HTTP 80, and then index.html. And then if you need more health checks, like, so how many times it should consider that it is a healthy threshold. So let's say the number of consecutive health check success required before considering an unhealthy target healthy. So how many times that you need to check? 5 times. Hey, alive or there? Yes. There. Yes. There. Yes. 5 times you check. Okay, now it is confirmed. Yes, you are there. So now unhealthy threshold. Hey, you are there? No response. There? No response. That meaning it's dead. Timeout. Timeout is meaning, hey, are you there? I am there. So if you slowly, your application is coming up, right? And the application should respond within 5 seconds. If it is not responding within 5 seconds, it's dead, right? And it will check every 30 seconds. And you know also very well what is the success status code of your health checks? 200. Samjay? Understood step 4, everyone? Everyone? Sissy? Nice. Nice. So next, should we change? No, if we change the success code, it's gone. So here, success code, you can have this, but 99.999% should be 200 only. So if you change the status code, you need to change on the backend on the application level. Not good. So next is register target. Guys, we have just created the target group, and inside this target group, we should keep the EC2 instances. Na? Inside this target group, we should attach EC2 instances, right? Yes. How? Select, guys, this is important. See, select these 2 EC2 instances, whatever you want to have in that target group, click on add to register. Then only that will be inside your target groups. Many people, what they do is they just select these 2 and then they'll click on next, thinking that they have registered. No, select these 2 and click on add to register here. Is this clear, guys? Step 5. Everyone? Step 1, configure a load balancer. Step 2, ignore it because security checks. Step 3, select your default security group. Step 4, create target groups. Step 5, register your targets inside it. And then click on next. And then boom. And now wait and see. So this is now provisioning. So we have to wait until then it gets active. So if you see that metadata of your load balancer, so this is your nasty URL. Do you see that? myelb dash some number dash apsouthone.elb.amazonaws.com. Is this nice to give it to your customer, this URL, to access your website? No. Which service will come into picture here? Yes, but we see that later, but yeah. So listeners, guys, listeners, we have 80. If you have HTTPS, you can go and add the listeners here. And monitoring group, if you want to have load balancer or not, I mean global accelerator or not, you have it. But do you see that here target groups in the bottom? So the target group is automatically created, see? And inside this target group, if you see the targets here, we have these 2 targets, server 1 and server 2 here, see? And the status of the targets is initializing. So if you access the load balancer, it will not work because the backend EC2 instance are now registering to the load balancer. Registering to the load balancer. Got this? So let's wait to become this status healthy. Guys, it should be healthy. If you have something wrong with your script, it should say unhealthy. Let's wait until, oh, do you see that? Now we have it's healthy. So my load balance, my target groups has an targets EC2 instance, which is healthy. That meaning my health checks are passing. So now I'll go to the load balancer and this is also active. Should we go and access the URL now? Load balancer URL. Boom. Do you see that? And if I refresh, do you see that? Load balancer is sending the traffic to one instance, one request to one instance. Round robin. Got this, guys? You understand? Clear on the load balancer? Right? Excellent. Excellent. So this is how we create the load balancer. So here we have something called interesting thing called attributes, where now this. So this is for the target groups. Descriptions. Yeah. Okay, here. Edit. So this is something called how much time will it take to deregister. That meaning if something is unhealthy, if you delete the EC2 instance, it will get deregister out of it, right? How much time it should take to get deregister. And but the thing is here, interesting thing, stickiness, guys. Stickiness. If you enable stickiness, the request will stick to the EC2 instance for how much time that you have mentioned. Let's say I have mentioned as seconds. So it will not distribute the traffic. The request, whatever you are getting, you are going it, the request from your browser will stick to the particular EC2 instance only for 30 seconds. Let's do that. Now I refresh it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It should stuck. 1, 2, 1, 2. Do you see that? Got stuck to server 2 now, right? This is called sticky sessions. If you want developers for you, if you want this is request to be stick for particular EC2 instance for some purpose, you can use that sticky sessions concepts here. So this is valid. This will be for 30 seconds only. After 30 seconds, now it will go back to server 1. These are all additional things that you can get it basically here. Please try to forcibly detach volume, sir. I tried. We are talking about something and you are asking something. So I tried it, but unable to detach, getting error. This is doubt from previous class. Okay, yeah. What you want to detach it? Additional or root? Put that. Can you detach your root while EC2 is running? You need to stop. Otherwise, you cannot detach. Stop it and then detach it. It will work. So guys, do you understand on the load balances concept? Everyone? Okay. So this is your task. The one which we have did it here. Take it. And then guys, see if one of the EC2 instance, if you terminate also, will there be any problem? Will my website work? It is server 1. See, now it is stick to server 1. Do you see that now? It went to server 2 and now it is went to server 1 and stick for 30 seconds there. Yeah. Nice. You guys are. So if I terminate any EC2 instance, will it get effect? No, because we have the load balancer. Any questions on the load balancer, or is it clear? Everyone? I got 3 answers only. Nice. So you try to do that. Practicals, and you should get some questions. Let's see. Should I go and terminate it now? Yes. Let's go and terminate it. So guys, what we do tomorrow is basically, if you terminate this 2 EC2 instance, now your ELB will not work. So how to make this always work? What is the next concept that we'll be talking about? How to make your website always work? How should we stop not to have any EC2 instances on this target groups? How to make all these things working? Auto scaling group. What is that? Excellent. Auto scaling group. So tomorrow what we do is, we don't launch an EC2 instance manually. We will do everything using auto scaling group. Let's take the pictures here. Let me know once you took the picture. Nice. So go and delete and go and delete the target group. Go here to the dashboard and see all odds here. Nice. So will you do the task? Nice. So guys, can you give me the final CC for today on this topic, load balancer? Nice. So guys, that is all for today, and I'll see you tomorrow with the last topic on EC2. So guys, until then, take care. Bye bye. Have a nice day and good night.